Huzzah. All right, so it's bear camp. Does anyone recognize these bears?
Yes.
Child of the 80s?
Thundercats.
Thundercats, Robo-Bearables. So not the new Thundercats, but the old ones. So my name is Justin Western. I'm going to be talking to you guys and gals about smart home technology. So I'm a self-professed gadget geek. I really like this stuff. I probably invested way too much money in smart home technology. So as we go through this, don't ask me how much I paid for it, but ask me if you have questions about how it can be used, how you can hack it. I've done some of that as well. So our path today. First, I'll be talking about some of the underlying technologies that actually enable this. Some of the interesting use cases today, a lot of the products that are, out on the market, possible future uses of this technology. Sorry, I got little sleep and lots of coffee this morning, so I apologize. Then we'll be talking about possible future use cases. So if we project this out kind of as an evolutionary thing, what does this technology look like in 10 years? Other technologies to watch like solar, biometric stuff, and then some recommended resources. So the first one that we're going to talk about, enabling technologies. Who uses Bluetooth today? Show of hands, okay. Most of the Bluetooth that people use today is like in their car, right? Is getting their voice to their cell phone. It's also talking about their mouse, right? Their keyboards, these sort of Bluetooth technologies. But what I really get excited about is the sort of location awareness that Bluetooth enables. Bluetooth Low Energy, which is Bluetooth 4.0, is a technology that's used in a lot of health trackers like Nike Fuel Bands. It's used in the Pebble smartwatch. It's a way to send little amounts of data to smart devices, but it doesn't use a lot of battery power. So when you're not using a lot of battery power, you don't have to worry about constantly replacing the batteries. This technology in a lot of ways becomes disposable. So Bluetooth 4.0 is really starting to make its way into mobile devices, the iPhone 4S, the iPhone 5, the presumed iPhone 5S. All of these devices have Bluetooth 4.0 in it. Now, 802.11ac Wi-Fi is the successor to 802.11n. 802.11n gives you a lot shorter range than 802.11g, but the bandwidth throughput's a lot higher. So you can stream video around your house. You don't have to worry about having Ethernet cabling everywhere. With 802.11ac, the range is about the same as 802.11n, but the throughput is 25 times greater than 802.11g and about 5 times greater than 802.11n. So this technology enables a lot of the smart home devices. And then gigabit ISPs, you probably read about Google Fiber, right? Kansas City, Austin. I'm from Houston. I wish we got it there, but we don't have it there. What Google Fiber and other ISPs like it will provide is basically the same sort of throughput out into the world that you can get within your home. So if you want to do HD video recording within your home, you can put that up on a server somewhere in the cloud, and you don't have to worry about being able to access it only when you're home. You can be like, I'm here in New Orleans, I can see what's going on in my home in the Woodlands. And another enabling technology is voice and motion recognition. So this is the Xbox One Connect. What's happening here is it's monitoring in a somewhat creepy way, given what's happened with the NSA recently. It's capturing everything that's going on in real time in your living room. It can detect if I'm in front of the TV versus my wife versus my children in front of the TV. So this voice capture and motion recognition enables a lot of creative uses. So what are some of those creative uses? So I'm going to talk through 3 categories. One is smartening existing dumb devices. And the nomenclature here that I'm using is maybe offensive to some, smart versus dumb. But the idea is if I have a lamp or I have a blender, right, it's not inherently smart. I can't do a lot with it. But I can make it smarter by attaching things like a Wemo switch to it. So you'll notice in this graphic I have things like a bedroom lamp, a fan, an iron, a playroom lamp, and a coffee machine. And the idea is that once I get this device connected, even though it wasn't manufactured in a connected way, once I have it connected, I can interact with it remotely. I can turn it on and off. Sometimes I can send just a flash to it if I want to power cycle it. So if your modem goes on the fritz a lot and you don't want to have to walk upstairs because you're lazy, right, you can just power cycle it and you get it back online really quick. Another device that can smarten dumb devices is something called Twine. So this is a motion sensing and also temperature sensing device that you can wire onto things like a garage door. So let's say I'm in a rush to get out of the house in the morning and I don't remember once I'm about a mile away whether I close my garage door or not. Well, if I've attached a twine to it and I know that its location has changed, I can log onto my iPhone and say, yep, I did remember to it, I just didn't get enough sleep last night and I forgot. So then you can access your twine interface via a web portal, which you can kind of see in the screenshot behind there. It's kind of like if this, then that, if you guys are familiar with it, so you can create rules and contingencies. It provides a front end to the APIs where you can interact with that device. And the other one that I wanted to talk about here that you attach to things is called Tile. The idea is this is another Bluetooth low energy device that you stick onto your wallet or your laptop or something else like a dog, maybe around his collar, because you want to make sure he's not breaking some sort of geofence you've set around your house. Once you put a tile on a dumb device, no offense to the dogs, but once you put the tile on something that's not inherently smart, you can track it, and if it breaks some sort of radius, you can get a push notification on your device. Now, if you were out there a second ago watching the knitting machine hacking, which was actually really cool, he was talking about Arduinos. So Arduinos and Raspberry Pis are little inexpensive circuit boards that have sensors and little diodes that you can connect to them to automate things. So the use case that one of my coworkers has done, he's put these on all the blinds in his house. Okay, so he can remotely control whether the blinds are open or closed or up or down because he's wired it up to a motor, and then each of these boards are internet connected, so it inherently makes it smarter. So we talked about making dumb devices smart, but now what about rethinking existing devices in a more smart way? So we're going to go out with the old and in with the new. There are some interesting devices you can put in your home, like light bulbs, right? So when Thomas Edison created the light bulb many, many moons ago, the internet was not a thing. But now the internet is a thing, and we can do different things with LEDs to change the colors of light bulbs, right? And we can make them go on and off or change the brightness intensity. You can buy these at Lowe's and the Apple Store today. Basically, you can create different moods and environments within your home by toggling the intensity and colors of these lights. And there are a few other, this is from Philips right now. There's another one called Lumix that I believe is a Kickstarter project, but basically it provides the same sort of stuff. Nest thermostats, right? You guys have probably heard of these. My Christmas present, or excuse me, my birthday present this year was 2 of these for my wife. So I think she was trying to tell me to be more energy efficient, but I was just really excited because it's from the creator of the iPod. And it looks cool on the wall. But the idea behind Nest thermostats is, you see the little leaf on the bottom here. When the leaf appears on your Nest thermostat, that means you're using energy efficiently in your house, and it's kind of a gamification technique. Over time, you want to earn more of these leaves, and you'll know at the end of the month when you get your energy report, I've saved X number relative to my neighbors, X number of kilowatt hours, or relative to my city or region or nationwide. In the month of May in Texas, I was not amongst the top leaderboards there. We were actually running the AC an awful lot. Now, smart locks, there seems to be a lot of competition here right now. I've got 3 up here on the board. The top is a Goji. The second one is an August smart lock. And then from an incumbent, the Kwikset Kivo is the one on the bottom left. They take different approaches here to enabling smartness in a lock. The Kivo and the August are not Wi-Fi connected, they're only Bluetooth enabled. So the idea is that if I have a Bluetooth low energy device like my iPhone in my pocket, as I get close to the lock, it will know that I'm there. It's kind of like if you have a car with a key fob and you get close to it, you only have to push the button as opposed to clicking the button, again, because we're all lazy. So with the August and the Kivo, you just get close to it and you can set up additional like guest passes here. So you don't have to physically give anyone a key. You can issue them like a Bluetooth key. So when they get close, maybe it's your nanny, maybe it's an AC repairman, you can give them access to your house without giving them the physical key. The one on the top left, the Goji, looks kind of like a Nest design-wise, and that one is Wi-Fi enabled. And the last one that I'll talk about rethinking in a more intelligent way, this is called the Doorbot. It pairs very gracefully with something called the Lockatron, which is another smart lock I didn't show on the previous screen. But the idea is there's a camera, it's a Wi-Fi device, and when your UPS man or someone comes to your front door, they push it and it sends you, basically it's like a Skype call coming in on your phone. It interrupts you like a VoIP call, and you'll see in a kind of fisheye lens here who's standing at your front door. And you can choose if you have a Lockatron on the back side of your door to open it for them, or you can say, hey, postal guy, please just leave the package on my door. So we've talked about dumb devices, rethought smart devices, and now let's talk about all new devices. So this, what appears to be kind of an egg from this angle, is actually more like a clamshell. It's called the I Wake You. And the idea behind the I Wake You is that instead of having a really annoying alarm clock waking you up in the morning, this will basically make light intensity mimic the way the sun rises. So it's a more natural wake-up sequence. So at the end of the day, you set, instead of an alarm, you say, I want to wake up at 6 a.m., and at about 5:15, 5:30, it'll start getting a little brighter and a little brighter and a little brighter until 6 a.m. it's at full intensity, and hopefully that's waking you up. If that's a little too new agey for you, though, and you want something more traditional like an alarm clock, this is called the Ivy clock. Think of it like Siri inside a clock. Okay, so you can talk to this alarm clock and say, hey, Ivy, I think it's hello, Ivy is the way to activate it, in the same way Google Glass says hello, Glass, or okay, Glass. You say, hello, Ivy, please set an alarm for 5 p.m. Or say, hello, Ivy, what's the traffic look like in New Orleans this afternoon? And you can interact with her in a voice-based way. The cool thing about this, that is kind of their selling point in their Kickstarter video right now, is it integrates with the Roomba. So if you make a mess in your kitchen, you can say, okay, Ivy, please clean up the mess. And they'll go and deploy an army of Roombas to clean up your chip mess. So what about future use cases? Now, for those of you that use iOS devices, you'll know there's something called the Notification Center. So if you swipe down from the top of it, it has basically all your notifications from Facebook and Twitter, or your alarms or emails from your VIP inbox. But the idea is, via Notification Center, you have just a running ticker of everything that's going on in your life, right? And with the Pebble and other smartwatches like it, basically they capture the notifications that are coming to your phone and repurpose them and put them on your wrist. So a possible future use case, just think around an office like this. If you had a Bluetooth low energy enabled device on your phone, or your phone is the device, and you're walking to a conference room like this, as you approach, you could have something like an iOS device there on the wall, and it gives you relevant notifications. What's on your notification center? There's a lot of ways in iOS 7, which is it's under NDA right now, but Apple is making this easier. Android does a pretty elegant way of tapping into the notifications in their notification tray as well. So think of this not as a full-blown iPad, one that would cost $350. Think of it as something like $40 or $30, just a dumb display that you could push notifications to it. So thin notification centers is what I'm calling that. So that's a future use case. Another future use case is highly precise indoor geofencing. So when you're outside, you have the luxury of GPS satellites to kind of tell you where you are. But once you go indoors, you don't have a really elegant way of tracking where you are, if I'm in this room versus the main conference room over there. So in the past, we've done this via Wi-Fi hotspots, right? You know, if you're going between two hotspots within an office setting, if you're closer to one, it can kind of triangulate your presence. With Bluetooth Low Energy and something called iBeacons, it becomes a much more precise way of knowing where you are in relation to a beacon like this little toad beacon down here. Just a Bluetooth Low Energy device doesn't do anything except send down a signal, and it will detect as you get closer to it. And as you get closer to it, it knows, am I far away, nearby, or immediately nearby this sensor? So if you have these, just think about an office setting like this, maybe 40 of these in every room or at different ends of the room, you can get a very precise location knowing where you are in 3D space. Has anyone seen Cloud Atlas in here by chance? Okay, one guy, then this will mean something to you and nothing to anyone else. So in Cloud Atlas, there's this scene from the future Hong Kong. And they go into what appears to be almost like an industrial dungeon. But the guy flips a switch and all of a sudden the environment transforms into a way that looks like a very Eastern-inspired, I don't want to call it an opium den, but it was a very luxurious looking area to where there were tapestries on the wall, there was a video screen on one end, and what appeared to be a rock garden out this window. The window was fake, right? But with a flip of a switch, I could customize the environment to what I wanted to see, what brought me peace. So if you think out maybe 5 or 10 years, as displays like plasma displays or LCD displays get cheaper and kind of not paint on surfaces, but kind of roll on surfaces where you can have computer generated displays on them, think about this as a blank canvas that I could customize however I wanted. And because it knows that it's me, because of my iPhone, when I walk into a room, I could have in every single room that I go into a highly customized room and a highly customized environment relative to my preferences. However, the Persian rug must stay. So what are some other technologies? I've talked a lot about Wi-Fi, I've talked about Bluetooth, but there are other technologies like solar. right? So over Memorial Day weekend, I live in the Woodlands, and if you guys know the Woodlands, it's like Pleasantville, just north of Houston. It's really kind of creepy in a way. But my house got shot at, which is what I thought I would have when I lived in New Orleans here. So I freaked out and I ordered a Glock and a whole bunch of LED lights from the exterior of my house and a gun safe to put my Glock in. So now I have, it looks like a landing strip around my house. I have LED lights everywhere. That was a more cost-effective way of lighting up the perimeter of my house as opposed to running wiring everywhere. I was shocked by how affordable these things have become these days. Now, I'm not talking about deploying a solar array on your roof or anything. These are kind of standalone lights and standalone floodlights. But this technology is getting only more affordable by the day. I mentioned a gun safe. I got a biometric gun safe as well, right? This is technology that reads fingerprints. If you go to a 24-hour fitness, most of those will have little fingerprint scanners, you know, when you go in. Think of this as a way to secure maybe jewelry boxes or firearms or safes with all your money in it, right? You can put these in different rooms in your house to secure items. And any Tesla fans in the audience today? So I saw Elon Musk speak this past year at South by Southwest. Very inspiring. The guy is a visionary, to be sure. Teslas are not really affordable for people like me today. In a few years, they say they're going to have more affordable versions, maybe starting in the high 20, early 30, or low $30,000. But they're doing a lot of really interesting stuff with battery technologies. They've even done consulting for Boeing with their Dreamliner when they had the battery flame-up issues this past year. So in the future, you will have these charging stations in your house, right, to where you can just plug in your car. You don't have to worry about going to an ExxonMobil station. You'll have a high-speed charging station in your garage. So what are some recommended resources where you can find out more about these smart home technologies? This is one I ran across about a month ago. It's called Anvil's Pack Store. They define a pack as software, an app, plus some sort of hardware, low-cost hardware. So things like Nest, all the Withings devices like the Smart Baby Monitor or the Wi-Fi Scale that you guys have heard of. I didn't talk about any of that today because I figure someone else will cover quantified self today. But Anvil is a great one, and I'll post a link to this later today on Twitter with the hashtag #BarCannola. A New Orleans success story here, Kickstarter, right? The Pebble was a Kickstarter project. If you just go on there and search iPhone, iPad, Android, you'll see a lot of devices or a lot of projects that are trying to raise funding to make smart technologies for those different platforms. Lifehacker is an awesome resource for this. It's a blog that's been around for, I think, almost a decade now, started by an individual named Gina Trapani. Talks about hacking things with Raspberry Pis, Arduinos, Wemo switches. You can just search for smart home there or smart tech, and you'll get a lot of results. Grand Street is another website I found recently. It's kind of like the Pack Store. They will take Kickstarter projects that have been funded and highlight different ones. The idea is that it's a membership only, although it's free membership. They try to have an air of exclusivity about it, but they do almost all smart home tech. And I paid lip service to it earlier. If this, then that. If you are a geek, but maybe you don't know how to code on the command line, this is a really useful way to network things together, different services. You'll see like Blogger, Dropbox. They have pretty much every web service there. They give you a really easy way to leverage their API. So in recap, we talked about some of the enabling technologies behind it, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, interesting use cases like the Doorbot and the Wemo switches. Future use cases, you're all going to go watch Cloud Atlas now to understand what the heck I was talking about, I'm sure. Other technologies to watch like solar and biometric scanning, and then the recommended resources. What I will close with before we go to the next presenter, does anyone remember the AT&T You Will campaign from the early 90s? Have any of you watched those recently? Because they were so spot on, it's scary. I don't know how the volume will be in here, but I'm going to try pulling one up right quick. This particular one I remember being particularly inspiring as an 11-year-old, and it's basically what Netflix is today. But at the time, it sounded so far-fetched and sci-fi-y. Okay, let me pull this up. Drag it across.
Business phone systems don't have to be expensive or hard to install and maintain.
Okay.
watch the movie you wanted to, the minute you wanted to. Learn special things.
That's all taken from jazz.
Know any questions from faraway places.
Okay.
So where did jazz come from?
Good question.
Or tucked your baby in from a phone booth. You will. And the company that'll bring it to you, AT&T.
So it wasn't AT&T that brought it to us for the most part.
Right about everything except one thing.
Yeah, exactly right. There's a few montages that have like all 8 of these commercials. I encourage you guys to go watch it. Just go to YouTube, type in AT&T, you will. The reason I bring it up in the context of smart home technology, if you think in an evolutionary sense, there are a lot of things that are very obvious today, right? We're going to have more displays throughout our house. We're going to have higher speed networking. But if you go a little bit beyond that, more revolutionary, what sort of things could we do 20 years from now in our homes that would be really awe-inspiring to an 11-year-old? So think about that. Try to encourage children to pursue those dreams. The AT&T commercial didn't bring me into computer science, but it may have played a little part. So thank you. My name's Justin, and I'll post these slides later on.